All right, y'all. I am exiting the scrap metal yard. You see they got the gate there, and nobody's manning the gate because people know if you've been coming here for a while, they close at noon. And as I'm leaving, it's 12:15. The car's kind of dusty. Time to not only wash the outside, but clean it up a little bit on the inside. Now, so how did I make out today? I'm gonna pull over before I get on the road. I don't think too many cars will be coming behind me, but let me put my flashers on. But here's my receipt for my scrap metal efforts today, the 21st of June. And by the time I made it in, unloaded the car, there was about 3 or 4 people in front of me with their load of scrap. So by the time I got to the cashier to weigh what I brought in and separate it, it was 12:09. That's what all of that scrap metal ended up to be, $41.74. And I got a check. Before they would just straight up give you cash, but I guess now you got to get a check. And either way, I got a bank account. I'm going to be cashing that check, or I can cash it, through the cell phone, through the app, to deposit it, I should say, just to deposit it in my bank account. Here's what I got. See those little things that were brass? That brass, yellow brass, $3.40. The stainless steel, which was those pots that I had, and a couple other things, amounted up to $3.60. Then I had some, what is that? Neoprene? I don't even know what that is. But whatever it was less than a pound, and I got $5.04 for it. You know what? I think that was that battery charger thing, because of course I had the 10, and look at the 10. Wow, they are only paying, is that 5 cents a pound, but it mounted up to be $3.70 worth of 10. Then insulated copper, which is basically all the wires. All those wires came up to be just $1 a pound. So I had about 26 pounds apparently. So it came up to $26. So that was the money maker as far as the scrap metal that I had. All right, so I'm gonna head back home, freshen up for the day, because being in my garage, which is like a sauna, because I'm all sweaty, and go home, freshen up, and who knows what I'm gonna do for the rest of the day. I might even go for another walk while I'm out. Let me see if I get in my steps for the day, and get me something to eat for the first time today. But that was fun. I hadn't did that in a while. As I was telling my scrap metal story, and once I got to the scrap yard, I was wondering if some of the same people will still be there that had been there in the past years that I had been coming to the scrap yard. And sure enough, the guy that was on the scale, he was there all the time, even though it looked like he was training someone to do what he do. And then the lady, one of the cashiers, same thing, she had been there. And I know she recognized me. I looked a little different because I wasn't sporting a beard. I didn't have locks like I do. And of course, with the facial hair and the locks, makes me look a little older than I did without any facial hair, and when my hair was short. And we used to, chop it up all the time. We used to talk while she was paying me, because she's a believer as well. And she used to have a sign up, like a Christian sign, some with a verse. I didn't see that up there anymore. But in any case, I was curious if those, some of the same faces that I was familiar with, that I hadn't seen in 3-4 plus years, would still be there. And a couple of them are. As I was telling the story about getting into scrap metal when I had my van, I remember the first, I would say, big piece of scrap metal that I had picked up. And like I said, I started looking at Craigslist, and you look into free, people be advertising, hey, free washers, free dryers. And this particular ad I came across, they had a chain link fence. It was already taken down. It was rolled up. They just needed someone to come pick it up. And I ain't have a clue how heavy that thing was going to be, but I'm like, I'm going to get it. Because most of the time, they just say, hey, here's the address, here it is, first come, first serve. And I sure did. I went and got that chain link fence, me and every little bit of muscle I had. And I'm going to tell you, the Lord helped me with a lot of this stuff. I don't know how, but he did, because I rarely had anybody with me when I would go pick up anything in this chain link fence. It just wasn't easy as picking it up and just tossing it in the van. I had to wrestle with it, but long story short, I got it in the van, and I drove it right here to the scrapyard, because it was about a Saturday morning. Now, mind you, up until that point, like I had mentioned earlier, all I would, as far as any scrap metal, I would just get cans. And so cans was my thing. But now I'm in the big leagues with the big scrappers. And again, I didn't know how to maneuver in the scrapyard, where I needed to go, how did I know what kind of metal I had? Like I said, in my garage, I didn't know the difference between tin or copper or stainless steel, none of that. I just, you're just completely ignorant to all of that. I just know I got a whole lot of metal from this chain link fence, and I'm about to get paid. I take the fence, and the guy asked me what I had. I told him, I said I had a chain link fence. He's like, oh, pull in there. So as I'm about to pull this fence out of the truck, he's like, oh, wait a minute, no, you need to take that, As a matter of fact, I think I pulled it out. He's like, oh, you just want to go and dump that with the other pile of tin. So I'm like, okay, where do I do that? How do I do that? Because I've never done it before. So he directed me I had to get back in my van, kind of back it up, get on the scale. They weigh you on the scale. And once they give you the green light, then you go back to where you see all the piles of scrap, and you see other customers, dumping all the scrap metal out of their car. And so like, oh, okay. So I went and dumped it, come back to the scale with your vehicle, being empty, and they weigh it, and then you go wait in line and get your money. So all that to say is that was my first scrap metal adventure, and that chain link fence netted me a little bit over $20, because that's all I had was the fence. And I just thought, okay, this is gonna be good. I went from $5 bags of can that would take months to fill up, to now, or if I just go pick up some scrap metal and I get $20, oh yeah, I'm gonna like this. Thus my scrap metal adventures begun. Started with a van, and then even when I had the van, because then I started praying for a truck, started praying for a trailer, and I did get a trailer. God answered that prayer, because again, there was an ad on Craigslist. I mean, I was in Craigslist every day, every hour, looking for people to give away free stuff, and of course free scrap metal, because that's all I was doing, was scrapping metal. And if it wasn't metal, I wasn't interested in picking it up. This guy said he lived out in Marion, Texas, which is, maybe about 20 miles east from San Antonio, and particularly where we lived. And he said he had a trailer that he wanted to give away, but you had to take everything that was on the trailer, and plus he had other stuff he wanted to get rid of that was, in the scrap metal department. And sure enough, I contacted the guy. I was one of the first ones, and sure enough, I arranged to come out there, pick up what he had, get that trailer. And on this trailer, and it was a boat trailer, but he said his dad converted that boat trailer into a regular trailer, because on this trailer, he had a couple of old washers, a couple of dryers, and just a couple of other, knickknacks that, fell in the category of scrap metals. I was like, cool. So we just leave that stuff on there, but nobody had moved this trailer in years. It was kind of in the weeds. We had to kind of dig it out the weeds. and but the wheels were good, and I had a hitch on my van already, and he was like, let's hitch it up and take it out. Cool. I hitched it up. We hitched it up to my van. And I laughed because I never pulled a trailer before, in terms of, we had a trailer. We trailered our car from Maryland to San Antonio, with a U-Haul trailer, and that's how I already had the hitch on the van. But a trailer, man, especially when it come to backing it up, and I had to back that thing up, and it was just going all kind of which ways, and I could not maneuver it. So the guy was like, okay, unhook your truck from it, or unhook your van from it. He hooked up his truck, and he got that thing out like it was nothing. And I was like, man, I'm gonna have to learn how to, drive with a trailer, and especially when it comes to backing it up and all that, because I could not back it up properly. Yeah, I could pull it, yeah, that's easy, but backing it up, and then when you had to turn, because that's what I had to do, I had to turn and get it straight to kind of get it out of his yard. I just could not do that. I tried like 5-10 times, and he was like, okay, forget it. He's like, unhook it from your van, hooked it up to his truck, and he got that thing out like it was nothing. But that was my first trailer. If I got a picture of it, I'll show it. But that trailer lasted me about a good 2-3 years. I probably had about 2-3 years, and it broke on me, because now, hey, I'm picking up scrap metal all over the place. I'm now an experienced scrap metal, and then my scrap metal side hustle turned into a landscaping side hustle, because people would see my yard. They're like, hey, you cut grass? I'm like, no, but I thought, okay, maybe I'll start doing that, and I just started doing that. So I had a couple of customers in my neighborhood where I do their yard, and then I just started becoming an all-around handyman. But that's another story. But as far as the landscaping and what happened to that trailer that I had and how it broke is because one of my customers that I would do landscaping for, he was selling his house, and he had a pool in his yard, and it was a big pool. It wasn't dug into the ground, but it was just a nice sized pool for adults and for kids. And he eventually drained it, and he paid me to tear the whole pool down. And of course, it has some metal. And then not only did I go from scrapping metal and taking metal to the scrap yard, I just also was junk removal. Because when people say, hey, I got this couch, can you take this couch or take this and take that, everything that wasn't scrap metal, and then I started charging them for that. And so I took down the guy's pool and everything. He had even a little, like a porch that, like a deck that you can, the kids can jump from the deck into the pool. So it was that kind of pool, and it was that big. But once everything was broken down and everything was removed, it was a big gapping dirt hole in his backyard. And so he wanted, obviously, that to be filled with sod, put the square grass down and cover that up, because, he's going to sell the house. And I told him, I said, I could do that, but, being here in San Antonio, because his house was empty, he was already moved out the house. I'm like, somebody's got to be here to water this sod, and then to make sure it, takes into the ground and it starts growing, because it just wasn't the spring or the fall where we would get, the most rain here in San Antonio. So somebody gonna be back here to water. I said, I can do it the first couple of days, of course, once I actually had borrowed my neighbor's tiller. I tilled the ground, and then I went to one of these places where you can get tubs of dirt. I think that's what they call it, but to just get some dirt, to just put some fresh dirt down in the ground. And that's where I broke my trailer. Because I went to one of those places. I wanted a tub of dirt, as they call it, and I'm thinking it is called a tub, and they put it in my trailer. Now, to me, when you're looking at it with your eyeballs, it ain't a lot of dirt, but it was a lot of dirt, and that dirt was heavy. And in this kind of homemade trailer from a boat trailer, it could not hold that dirt. So as I'm pulling out of the lot where they put the dirt in my trailer, I probably got a mile up the road, and then I just heard something crack, something break, and I had to pull over, and sure enough, the weight of that dirt just basically, broke the trailer in half. And, so the bottom of it was scraping the ground. And mind you, the wood and everything in the trailer held, but the metal underneath the trailer could not hold that amount of dirt, because it was practically just a two-wheeler type of trailer. And again, it wasn't a huge trailer, but it was enough to get the dirt in there. But now I'm on the side of the road, and thank the Lord, it was kind of a back road, so it wasn't a whole lot of traffic coming through where this dirt place was. And I called my wife immediately, recruited her and my son. They brought the other vehicle, because I was with the van and the trailer, and I told her to bring some, because I had about 4 or 5 trash cans at home that I began to use to scrap metal in, that I explained earlier. I said, bring those empty trash cans, and bring a couple of shovels. I already had about 3-4 shovels. And sure enough, my son, my wife, and myself, once they made it to where I was, we shoveled all of that dirt out of the trailer into those trash cans, put them in the van, and once we got the weight of the trash can off the trailer, even though it was bent, the metal was bent, it wasn't like broken in half, but then it was starting to lift off the ground. So I was able to drive the trailer home, with the dirt in the van, and make it to the guy's house. And I even recruited my wife and son to help me unload all that dirt into the spot to where he had the swimming pool. And then once I got the trailer home, that was it for the trailer. I eventually broke the trailer down. I had my reciprocating saw. I cut up all that metal, so that became scrap metal for me. And now I got a van, again, no trailer. And so now I'm figuring out how I'm gonna get a trailer. Now my neighbor, who had his own landscaping business, had 3 trailers, I want to say, and he kept 1 trailer in this house that was right across the street from us, that was abandoned. He never used that trailer for some reason. So I would ask him when I knew I had something big to either pick up or haul, if I could rent his trailer from him. And sure enough, he would let me rent it for like $25 for the day or whatever. And I did that probably about 3 or 4 times. But then when I realized he was never using it, I was like, do you want to sell that trailer? And I was like, I'll buy that trailer from you. And it was a nice metal trailer. And I'm sure I have some pictures on my phone. I share that trailer, share the picture of it. And sure enough, I bought it from him. And I can't remember how much he charged me for it. I want to say maybe about $300, because it was a real nice metal trailer. It had a gate on the back, which you can let it down, which of course I could roll things up and out of the trailer with a dolly, because he used that for his landscaping business, where he had, riding lawnmowers, and he can just ride them right up on the trailer. And it had a tall fence. It was all fenced around the trailer, so it wasn't an open trailer except on top. And then it had even another storage. So it was a nice trailer. I want to say it was a 4-wheeler, 2 wheels on each side, if I'm remembering correctly. But the pictures that tell on it, it might have been just 2 tires together, like you'll see on some trucks. So, but in my head, I'm thinking it was just 4. But nonetheless, that became my trailer. And I used that trailer up until I stopped scrapping metal right before we moved into our current house, which I made at home, sitting out here before I go in the house. And when I realized I wasn't going to scrap metal anymore, and that was in 2020, I sold the trailer. I sold the trailer because first I had it out here in front of the house, and of course the homeowner association like, you can't have that trailer in. And then when I was going to maybe put it in storage, shoot, it cost an arm and a leg to store the thing. And I'm like, well, if I'm not using it, and I just didn't even want to store it in my own garage, I'm like, I just sell it, because I did put it in the garage for a few days, just to get it off the street, get it out of the driveway, keep the homeowner association people happy. And then I put it on Craigslist and ended up selling it to a guy for, I think I advertised it for $1,000, but ended up selling it for $800. And then a couple of years later, a few years later, I ended up selling my truck too. Now, the reason why I sold the trailer is because I just wanted to get out of the scrap metal business altogether. And again, I was picking up junk as well, and then we were even clearing out houses. But my left knee, like literally felt like it was going out on me. It started hurting. And the more I would move stuff, even when we moved ourselves into this house, I was practically limping. And I'm like, I even went to the hospital, and they saw how my knees, the bone, it was bone on bone. And so I was like, I just need to stay off my legs for a little bit and not dealing with all this weight, because I was thinking ultimately it was going to turn into maybe some kind of a surgery. You be hearing stories of people having knee surgeries as they get older, hip surgeries and all that. So I'm like, yeah, it might be heading there. But they didn't recommend surgery at the time. They just said they would give me those cortisone shots, I believe, or whatever, with some type of filler that they would put in my knee to go in between the joints to keep the bone off the bone. And I'm gonna tell you, God is good. They recommended I get that shot about every 6 months. And for the first year and a half, I may have, I was faithfully going to get the shot, because sure enough, it seemed like I would feel it wearing off and I would have that pain in my knee. And I'm like, okay, it's about that time, to go get that shot, get that, whatever they put in, a silicone. And then I would get my knee x-rays to see if it just got any worse, but it was still kind of the same. And so the last time I had that done was probably a couple of years ago, definitely before I was diagnosed with prostate cancer, because once I was diagnosed with prostate cancer, nothing else mattered at that point. But praise the Lord, my knee haven't been in any pain, because I hadn't really been doing anything physical other than maybe walking up and down the neighborhood and jogging from time to time. But I hadn't felt any pain. So my knees last couple of years been feeling good. And I haven't went and had that injection of that silicone, and I said cortisone, but it might be silicone. I don't know, I'm starting to get tired. I'm starting to talk too much. But whatever they put in my knee, I just haven't had that done, because I haven't had any knee pain at all, thank the Lord. And I'm now starting to get active again. I haven't teased and talked about maybe I ought to get another truck, but I know if I get another truck, people are like, hey, can you help me with this, that, and the other? And I'm like, I may not do that. I just get a car. I got a car now, but to get another car, trade this one in, or keep this car for my son when he gets out. Anybody that knows us know we have a son who's incarcerated, might be getting out later this year, but we shall see, and we're praying about that. God's will be done. That's my story of scrap metal. You'll probably hear some more, but I'm going to pull into my driveway, and because I got to back up, I'm not going to be holding my phone doing that. Appreciate y'all watching, listening to me, watching me as I scrap metal. Try to get this video up. The last few videos that I produced, for whatever reason, and I do know the reason, but I just couldn't get them up on YouTube. But hopefully this will. And I'm gonna freshen up, get me something to eat, and chill, and we'll see what happens next. So again, thanks for watching. God bless you all. Have a wonderful day, and remember, Jesus loves you, and so do I.